Hello and welcome to Cyclocosm.com's How the Race Was Won. After a long hiatus, ironically enough, spent racing bicycles, we're back just in time for the first big GC shakeout of the 2009 Vuelta a Espana. And what a shaking out it needed. After 12 stages, the top 6 riders were separated by a mere 63 seconds. Plus, after 2 consecutive Garmin Slipstream wins, you knew the cycling gods were preparing to exact a sacrifice. Fearing divine wrath, 5 categorized climbs, and maybe to prepare for Worlds. A host of riders, including Oscar Freire and Tom Boonen, bailed on the race. The fun began from the opening kilometers, as the third category Alto de Berja split the field. A big group, numbering nearly 30, bolted away, with a group of 3 escaping even them. Rein Terame, David Moncoutier, and Koos Morenhout, making the Dutch champion a very unhappy slab of meat in a Covidis sandwich. Predictably, Moncoutier and Terame teamed up to secure the day's load of mountain points for the KOM leading Frenchman. After dangling for a bit, the Estonian was finally cooked at 37 kilometers to go, and the Dutch champion dispatched shortly thereafter. However, Morenhout's day was not quite done. Meanwhile, the bulky group in no man's land was content to sit on and provide an excuse for teammates in the golden jersey group behind to not do any work, and some big time gaps formed. Astana's Daniel Navarro, sensing the malaise, began making his bid for freedom, quickly marked for GC reasons by Joaquim Rodriguez, who had flirted all day with the virtual race lead. The finished climb of Stage 13 was more 2 climbs, really. The Cat 1 Monachil, with the HC Sierra Nevada sort of stacked on top of it. Cycling News claimed a 6-kilometer twisting descent, but here we see Moncoutier summit at 17.6k and climbing again less than 2k later. Liquigas wasn't fooled either, and put hammer to legs on the Monachil as if it were the final climb of the day. As Liquigas lifted the tempo, the heads of state hung on. Race leader Alejandro Valverde was slightly out of position, but battled his way forward as the race strung out. But many other contenders were not so lucky. As the GC group mowed through the cast-offs of the breakaway, Liquigas' teammate Roman Kruisinger reintegrated and took over the pacemaking, shelling all but 5 riders by the end of his pull. Breakaway teammates would play a massive role for the rest of the stage, and Cees de Parn realized it immediately, calling back Rodriguez from his pursuit of Moncoutier. Cadel Evans received no such support, even though Francis de Greef had been closer to the pack than Rodriguez as the pace kicked up. The Aussie's luck went from bad to worse as he flatted meters before the penultimate KOM. Evans was then treated to one of the most shambolic neutral service changes ever. As onlookers gawked and fat woman waved styrofoam puppets in front of the camera, the hapless Aussie stood by the side of the road for nearly a minute before his team car finally came by to give him a bike change. And still, Lotto left de Greef up the road, offering only a very slippery bottle to help their leader back on. Back in the golden jersey group, Basso found that he had become a victim of his own success. While Liquigas' earlier pacemaking had thinned the contenders, they also brought back Joaquim Rodriguez and Manuel Garate, powerful climbing domestiques of GC rivals Robert Hissink and Alejandro Valverde. While clearly feeling good, the Italian was now forced to wait to play his cards. As the race rolled on, Rabobank's big investment in the early breakaways continued to pay off. As soon as Garate fell back, Koos Morenhout, remember him, took over, further keeping the lid on Basso. Eventually, Ezequiel Mosquera, with the time trial looming, was forced to make a move to improve his overall position. Basso, Hissink, and Valverde initially responded, but eventually the trio reached a detente. Having put time into all their rivals, and sure to make up time on Mosquera in the upcoming TT, the 3 rode together, leaving the stage for the enterprising Moncoutier and second to Mosquera. Predictably, the snappy Valverde snatched the bonus seconds for third on the line. It wasn't the most aggressively raced stage, but as Sammy Sanchez, who fell back on the support of his teammates before battling back to within 30 seconds of the gold jersey, can tell you, sometimes the point of a Grand Tour stage is not to win, but to simply not lose. I'm Cosmo Catalano, and that's how the race was won.